So I'm going to tie one of Bob Popovics' patterns, a Semper Fleye. It's really just two materials. We're going to use some strung saddle. These happen to be tip-dyed, and a little bucktail for support. Of course, we're going to put on a nice shorter shank hook because you don't need a lot of space to tie this one here. And we'll get going. Always use a fine monofilament thread, and we'll start with bucktail. When you preen your bucktail for the first tie-in, I'll kind of pick up the length I need, and then not being too sparse here, but we're going to get some of the shorts out just like this. And we'll cut it all the way at the base. And then what I typically like to do is just take a few of the longer ones out and put them back in, and then clean any of the things that are short out. We're probably looking for 1.5 lengths of the hook shank, but not terribly important either way. We'll always cut our bucktail nice and square before we introduce it to the hook. Just a few light wraps just to get it in place, and then distribute it just equally around the hook shank. Really just this serves to keep the tail feathers from fouling. Each wrap I'll get successively tighter. At this point, if you like, you can think about some flash. Always nice to add just a little bit of adhesive at this point as well. I like a brushable glue because it keeps things less messy. So I'll stop there. I'll take a little flash, not to be gaudy unless you want it nice and bright. I'll take it and just loosely drape it over. Take just a couple wraps back, and then I'll veil the rest of it over. So then for the next part, we're going to look and pull. I did some prep work. We're looking for some feathers with a nice taper to them. Something like that if you can. I think a lot of people tie this fly, and the mistake they do is they either try to rip them out, and when they do, they lose a lot of the fluff. But I want to keep that in there. So I always find it a little nicer to kind of cut the strung hackle out. Once you get yourself 6 or 8, I usually do 8. Try to line them up. The tips, they don't have to be exact. Somewhere in the same general vicinity. Length again, 8 hackles. Then what I'll do is take them, look at them for length. It looks about right. Leaving that fluff here, I'll just strip one side off the top, one side off the bottom. That gives us a nice clean tie-in point. So we're going to tie these equally all around the hook, and we'll kind of start closest to me, and just a couple wraps to hold each one on. They seem a little crooked, it's okay, they'll straighten out at the end. It's a really versatile pattern that you can tie in lengths, different lengths and profiles. Don't have to be exact here to start. Just want to get all the feathers on and equally around. Towards the bottom. And once I get them all in place, I'll take a few wraps back so the tie-in point is all the same. And I'll go in and cut these stems off equally. I found if you leave a little bit of stem here, instead of cutting them all the way back short, that adds to the durability of the fly. Again, at this point, I'd add a little adhesive. We'll go over this a couple times just to make sure it's really secure. So as you can see, it already has a nice profile and a good starting point. So you can fan through the same strung hackle and you notice the difference between something like that and then also something that looks a little bit more like schlappen, something that's a little wider and webbier, say like this. Right. You want to find the point where the stem goes from thick to thin, and that's where you're going to tie it in. Anytime I'm tying in a feather, because what we're going to do is we're going to palmer to make the head of this. Just in front of where I ended, I want to mount the feather as close to 90 degrees as I can. And that way you can ensure the first turn lays down correctly. At that point, you probably just break that stem off. And then we're just fold and palmer until we get to the hook eye. So you never know how many you're going to need, but looking at this, so I can probably say we'll probably need 6 or 7 feathers. And to do them one at a time would be fairly tedious, but not difficult. But a way to speed the whole thing up is I would just grab a few at a time. And this is again some schlappen. You can see same general structure of those feathers we're looking for. Maybe we'll grab some of this now. So I palmered one previously. Then you can grab 2 or 3 or 4, however many you're comfortable with grabbing. Again, you'll find the place where the stem goes from thick to thin. Well, let's clean it off. Get them all oriented or concave side back. We'll mount them all on at the same time. Apply a little thread pressure this time because you do have multiple feathers. Cut the stem out. Pick them all up together. And and stroke them down and out. And you'll see that doing multiple at a time we can move through the fly fairly quickly. Seem like you run out of room, just advance your thread a little bit. It's difficult to hold, you still have plenty of space, so maybe I'll just tie it off there, or you can take another wrap. Cut out the excess. I typically do this to open it up. I'll wrap back, and you can see the shape starting to go. Another little trick, instead of putting adhesive right on the materials, monofilament thread allows you to put some on the thread. And I'll take a couple wraps backwards to secure these even better. And the idea is to get a nice dense front to provide mobility for the back. We got a fairly nice shape. It looks like maybe 3 or 4 more. Same process. Again, we'll find where the stem goes from thick to thin. We'll mount them in, even taking a couple wraps back. Before trimming off the excess. Nice and tight. I'll advance the thread to the hook eye. Try to pick them up. And just keep going. I'll show you one little trick here at the end as we get to the hook eye. There's always more room by taking and tie down those feathers. And then again, take wraps backwards before advancing it back to the hook eye. We've made ourselves a little space. I think the color on the front would be very nice. all that space. I'm gonna ruffle the feathers. A couple wraps back. I'm partial jungle cock, so fly would fish very easily without eyes. Whenever you're mounting jungle cock, I like to make sure I get a few fibers, not just stem in the beginning. And you can slide them into place. And take wraps backwards. Stripping everything out of the way. And I like to add just a little bit of adhesive to the thread. And you're ready to fish.